guys, look. There's a kitty that's just chilling by me. He's so cute. Yeah, you're so cute. Yeah. Yeah. He might get up and walk away. He doesn't like when I talk loudly or vlog. So, see, he's like, oh, I know what she's doing. I don't like it. I'm gonna go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, you burp? Is it a good burp? Yeah. I'm sorry. I got a vlog though. Yeah. Okay. So I want to clear up some confusion, you goofballs. So some of you thought I was conflating gender with sex. I'm not. I was totally like beyond that and talking about gender versus gender identity. There's also sex. Yeah, we could have a conversation about sex versus gender identity. Sex involves is more rooted in, I mean, it's all of them are constructs. Sex is a construct, gender is a construct, and gender identity is a construct. They're all things that are created. You might be thinking to yourself, why is sex created? It's like rooted in biology. Well, first of all, Western biology is a construct. Anything that is a form of classification or labeling is a construct. Those are invented by humans. We weren't born, or the earth didn't happen, like wasn't created, or the first person didn't have like the the classification system. Yeah, see, he's going. I'm sorry. I know you don't like when I vlog. Well, go in your house. Yeah, go in your house. Oh, your brother's in your house. Sorry. I'm sorry. I love you though. So anyway, so sex is a construct. Now, when I say sex is a construct, I don't mean that like the way your body is a construct. The way your body is the way your body is. Like, I have two eyes and a nose. It is like undeniable. That's not really open to interpretation. I mean, if you wanted to get really, really into it, I suppose you could say that all words are constructs, and like a nose is a construct, because what is a nose? But I think, like, for practicality reasons, that's taking it too far. Because otherwise we couldn't communicate about anything, you know? So, but sex is a construct because sex is proven to have more holes and interpretations and problems than the word nose, for instance. So there's not often where you can be like, people keep calling this thing on my face a nose, but it really doesn't feel like a nose, and it's different from other people's because of X, Y, and Z. But people can't say that about sex. They can literally say it's different for X and X. That was a chromosome pun. Ew. So yeah, so that's why sex is a construct, because it's more open to interpretation, and the way and our form of classification right now is flawed. Or our form of I love how like just noses have become my like comparable analogy for what is and isn't a construct. So like, our classification system for noses has yet to run into so many critiques as our classification system for sex, which is why I would argue sex is more of a construct than our noses. Yeah, but like I said, our body's physicality isn't a construct. So I'm not saying that like, I'm not saying that the way your body is a construct. I'm saying that the labels we use are constructed because, like, so for example, a person may appear to be a woman. They may have so many things, like a woman, but they may have so many things that our society would deem typical of the ideal female specimen. They might have, breasts, dainty, petite facial structure and stature. Their body muscle to fat ratio might be like that of a woman's. They might have lots of estrogen, more than testosterone, because everybody has both. They might have, what else I was like, what else do women have? I totally forgot. You know, like a vagina, or a vulva, labia, lots of things like that. And then later in life, they learn, so their assigned sex then is female. And you might be like, that's undeniable, that's what they have. You can't argue that. Like, okay. Actually, you can, because a lot of us don't know about our chromosomes. When was the last time you went in for a genetic testing? I never have, so I cannot tell you. I feel like my sex is female. I got boobs. This might be too much information. I have a vagina. For those of you who are wondering. I feel like I have broader hips than most men. All these things. But I couldn't tell you for certain that I fit, like, society's perfect specimen of what it means, or I've hit the requirements for being female, because I don't know my chromosomes. I do not know if I have XX chromosomes. And a lot of us don't. So maybe that person that I just described, that has all these characteristics of being a woman, later learns, in fact, that they have XY chromosomes. And maybe they learned that because they had to go in for, like, a lot of people have to go in to have these testings for reasons to see if they have, like, certain conditions, you know. So maybe they wanted to see if they have the certain genetic condition, and it turns out that they don't. So good news for them. But they did come back with a surprising discovery that they have XY chromosomes. And maybe after, like, further investigation, they, like, do an ultrasound, and it looks like they have undescended testes too. So what is that person then? But everything else about them, they have more estrogen than testosterone. They have external genitalia that looks like a vagina. This person's intersex, and that and our, like, form of our I farted. Isn't that fun? I could have taken that out. I feel like I'm so relaxed, though. I feel like I'm hanging out with Grace. I just let one loose. I'm gonna post this anyway. You probably couldn't even hear it, and I just admitted to it anyway. So yeah. So when I was talking about gender versus gender identity, a lot of you were like, I thought it was just sex versus gender identity. Sorry, that sounded a little condescending. Some of you said, I thought that was just sex versus gender identity. No. I'm talking about, I meant what I said. I'm talking about gender versus gender identity. There's also sex, though, and that is our bodies. Like, sex is a construct rooted in our body's biology and our body's physicality. Gender is like a concept of self that's determined by you based on, like, your knowledge of yourself, your understanding of gender, and the way you fit into society. Then gender identity. Oh no, see, I messed it up. It's complicated. Gender and gender identity are similar, but not completely the same. But they are not mutually exclusive. So they can totally overlap. And I would argue that, in fact, in most people, they definitely do. Gender and I don't know if I told you this story, because I forget how to daily vlog, but I probably did. A friend was telling me about how their gender and their gender identity did not match at one point in their life, because they didn't understand a lot about themselves. They didn't understand a lot about gender. But they noticed... But they did know what society had taught them about gender, and they did kind of see where they were fitting into society, so they ID'd their gender identity was girl. That was wrong. They later, in fact, learned a lot more about gender, and they learned that they weren't a girl. That was not their gender. That was their gender all along. Instead of identifying as a girl, they now identified as a tomboy. And I was reluctant to share this story because a lot of you are going to be like, tomboy's not a gender. Tomboy can be a gender. So, because tomboy to them doesn't mean what tomboy means to you. So anyway, but yeah, so just don't get hung up on that detail. If you don't like the fact that I'm saying tomboy, pretend I'm saying just boy. So they ID'd as a girl, later decided they ID'd as a tomboy. And so then they reflected on their past, and they're like, oh my gosh, my gender was tomboy all along. I've always been a tomboy. I just didn't know it. So that was an instance where their gender and their gender identity did not match. So that could be like an example of how these terms are separate. but they're not mutually exclusive, because a lot of us know or have a gender identity that does in fact match our gender. We will not go on to later learn that we are incorrect. Or some of us experience a change, but both our gender identity and our gender is changing because we're fluid. So maybe one day we identify as a tomboy, and then the next day we identify as a boy. It might not be the same as the case of my friend. Both of our gender and our gender identity might be changing, as opposed to just changing the way you ID because you learn the truth about your gender. It's very complicated. But yeah, there is sex, there is gender, and there is gender identity. And they all can have a lot to do with each other. Society sure thinks they do. But they are in fact different. And for some people, they're very different. So, I hope that shed a little light on what I was talking about yesterday. If you have any critiques about what I have to say, feel free to plop them in the comments, and I shall read them.